Sometimes greatness doesn't scream. It whispers, hidden in the fourth round, tucked beneath the headlines. While the NFL world buzzed about big names and flashy first-round picks, the Atlanta Falcons may have just discovered their next defensive spark plug. Quietly, confidently, and completely under the radar. The Falcons' 2025 draft class had its fair share of bold moves. First-round firepower like Jalen Walker and James Pierce grabbed immediate attention. But behind the noise, something special was brewing. Enter Billy Bowman Jr., the kind of player you don't notice until he makes you notice. A fourth-round pick with the heart of a warrior and the motor of a missile. Bowman isn't just filling out the roster. He's forcing the coaching staff to take a closer look. And when defensive minds start talking, you listen. Veteran defensive coach Jerry Gray didn't mince words. Bowman, he said, is starting off in the nickel, but he brings something far more valuable than just positional versatility. He brings fire, Gray said, passion, grit, relentless energy. Alongside Xavier Watts, calm, calculating, composed, Bowman becomes the fire to a dynamic fire and ice duo. One attacks, one analyzes. Together, they may anchor a secondary with the brains to read an offense and the brutality to shut it down. But it doesn't stop there. Atlanta's own area scout described Bowman like this. In his heart, he's 220 pounds, and he'll run straight through a ball carrier. He leaves it all out there. In a league where attitude matters just as much as talent that says everything. The Falcons' secondary coach added even more weight, calling Bowman and Watts high-level thinkers, guys who not only play fast, but understand the game on a cerebral level. That's rare. That's valuable. And when your general manager uses words like tough, smart, explosive, instinctual, competitor, you don't just take note. You lean in. Because that's the DNA of a difference maker. Billy Bowman Jr. may not have had the spotlight on draft night, but don't be surprised if, come game day, he's the one creating chaos, turning fourth-round whispers into full-blown roars. What makes a draft pick a steal? It's not just about talent. It's about timing, need, and vision. And in the fourth round, the Falcons didn't just find a player. They found a piece that fits perfectly into the bigger puzzle. Defensive coordinator Jeff Ulbrich couldn't hide his excitement. When asked about Billy Bowman Jr., he didn't give a polite answer. He lit up. Burst, aggressiveness, blitz ability, ball skills. All of it, he said. Everything you want in a defensive player, Bowman has it. And that's what makes this such a crucial moment for Atlanta. In today's game, finding elite defensive backs is harder than ever. The best young athletes are gravitating toward offense, chasing highlights, touchdowns, and attention. That means the pool of truly gifted, instinctive defenders shrinking. That's why safeties and corners are rising in value. That's why teams are reaching earlier than ever to grab one. And yet, somehow, the Falcons got Bowman in the fourth. That's rare. That's real. That could change games. But what makes this even more powerful is the context. Just 6 months ago, this team stood at a crossroads. They made their bet on Michael Penix Jr., a quarterback with raw talent, mobility, and a ceiling that made people dream. It wasn't a clean decision. There was confusion. Kirk Cousins had just arrived. Fans were split. But the Falcons made a choice. And in doing so, they quietly reshaped their future. The offense, already armed with weapons, is now surrounded by optimism. Penix has time. The offensive line is solid. The playmakers are dangerous. By ESPN's metric, where every team was judged as if they had average quarterbacks and average protection, Atlanta's skill group ranked 9th in the entire NFL. Now imagine adding a quarterback who's better than average. A line that protects better than average. You're no longer hoping. You're threatening. And that's where defense becomes vital. That's where Billy Bowman Jr. steps in, not just as a player, but as a counterbalance. Because as the offense rises, the defense must rise with it. You can't contend with one side of the ball. You need both. You need guys who can shut down third downs. You need fire in the backfield. The Falcons didn't just draft for depth. They drafted for balance. And in the fourth round, they might have just tilted the scale. When the Falcons doubled down on defense in the draft, it wasn't a coincidence. It was a statement. They knew the offensive talent was there. The real test now was building a defense that could complement that firepower, a unit that could close games, take the ball away, and swing momentum when it mattered most. And they started where it counts, in the secondary. Some positions in football are rigid. A tackle is a tackle. A guard is a guard. But others? They're fluid, dynamic, and critical. That's why safeties are becoming some of the most valuable players in the modern game. A great safety isn't just a deep field protector anymore. Today, they move like chess pieces. They line up in the box like a linebacker. They blitz off the edge like a hybrid. They drop into coverage like corners. They even handle receivers in the slot. That's what makes Billy Bowman Jr. and the Falcons' safety strategy so vital. If he becomes what the coaches believe he can be, this defense doesn't just improve. It transforms. Because with speed on the edge, experience at corner, and versatility at safety, the Falcons are building something balanced, something dangerous. But every good roster faces its proving ground. And for Atlanta, that test comes mid-season. There's a stretch in the heart of their schedule that may decide everything. Miami, New England, Indianapolis, Carolina, New Orleans, the Jets. 6 games, all winnable, all pivotal. These aren't juggernauts. They're teams either rebuilding or retooling. And Atlanta? Atlanta's trying to rise. If they can take care of business in that stretch, they don't just stay in the race. They could take control of the division. Sure, Seattle looms. Tampa's always tricky. And yes, Arizona might surprise. But let's be honest, Kyler Murray hasn't proven he can carry that team consistently. This division? It's there for the taking. The Buccaneers might be the only real competition. Carolina could be scrappy, but they're still figuring it out. And the Saints? Well, the Saints look lost. There's no guarantee in football. But this year, the Falcons control their own destiny. The draft, the defense, the quarterback, it's all converging. And now it's about execution. The question is no longer, can they? It's, will they?